Hey there, fellow YouTube shade tree mechanics. This is Rick coming at you from Maryland with a common repair we make on 2004 Dodge Ram half-ton pickup trucks. Many of you have done this job. No, it can be quite a pain in the rear, no pun intended. And the job I'm talking about is the removal of the rear brake rotors. They have an uncanny ability of seizing onto the axle hub, making them quite challenging to remove. At any rate, let's go into this. Already taken the liberty of taking off the wheel. Actually, my son did. He did the heavy lifting on this. There's a retainer. I think this is just for factory purposes. We'll probably put it back on. We've done it in the past. But anyway, I think the pro players are supposed to replace this with a new one if you're going to replace it. I'll leave that up to your discretion. But the real meat and potatoes of this video covers removing the worn rotor from the hub. And over time by that I mean the first 2 seconds this truck is rolling down the road, it seems to magically fuse itself to the hub, and it gets bound up on the studs here. I've already taken a moment to make the job a little easier. I went ahead and hit it with this PB blaster. I think I've used this in other videos I've done. Not big on product endorsements, but if I'm going to endorse one, this would be one I certainly would endorse. This stuff frees up rusted stuff better than pretty much anything else in the universe. It's good. Use it. Let it sit on there a bit. In fact, you can work on the other side, or I recommend having a beer for those folks who enjoy that. Have a beer, sit back, and contemplate the universe while that stuff does a little bit of magic. Anyway, let's get on with this. A lot of you have used ye old sledgehammer to pound these rotors off, and I have too. In addition to using that heavy sledgehammer and taking either bunting baby swings at the thing, or using one of these guys here, the baby sledge, to give these rotors some love in order to bang them off. It does work. I've done that in the past, and I'm sure many of you have as well, but it can be problematic because you swing this, and if you're not careful, you could miss and go glancing off of anything, those leaf spring packs, or pretty sheet metal, or worse, the head of these mallets is unforgiving. They can come back and clonk you in the noggin, and that's never fun for anybody. So I thought, after we were banging on this for a little bit, hey, let's come up with a different approach that might be better. It certainly was for us, and it might be for you. What could that magic be? Well, we're going to use our friend the service jack right here. Your application may vary, but this is for an 04 Ram. These suckers are notorious for having these rotors seize up on here. Other trucks might do the same with some cars. So, hey, this video might work for you too. What I'm going to do is we're going to take this jack, and as soon as I can get a better position here and maneuver the camera, we're going to wedge it. We're going to put the base of the jack against this leaf spring pack, taking care not to put any load on the flex brake line here, and carefully wedge it so that the top of the jack, the operational part, is pressing up against the inboard side of the rotor. And and I'm going to jockey the jack so that it fits between the caliper mount here. So let's give it a go. Alright, you can see I have the jack wedged in there behind the rotor and on the facing side of the leaf spring pack. I'm just using a standard 1/2-inch ratchet. This one's one of those slick polished Craftsman deals, and it's got I'm using a 19mm impact socket set. I think it's from Lowe's, but you get whatever you want to use. But anyway, and your dimensions of your tools may vary. I am using the OEM service jack that came with this truck. Bottle jack, scissor jack, anything will do, as long as you can fit it between the leaf spring pack and the rotor. And I spared you for me having to endure watching me jockey this around a little bit. You have to get creative. You can see here where I wedged it in. You might find an optimal spot. Certainly better than this. We'll give this a go. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. And we may have to jockey this around another time until we get what we want, which is to break this rotor off this hub so we can replace it. Let's give it a go. Before we begin, all the usual safety spiel has to come along with this whenever you're putting pressure on any kind of metal like this that's seized up with force of a jack. Really a good idea to wear gloves, stay clear, make sure you got stuff moved out of the way, because there's a real likelihood of the jack falling or heavy things going springing around, and the likelihood of injury is always present. So use a little bit of common sense and always keep safety first. All right, let's go wrenching on this thing, see if we can break it loose. I'm going to do the best I can to maneuver this while working the camera. It's sometimes difficult to do this with two hands. I'm not using a tripod mounted camera, obviously. I'm just taking advantage of the camera built into this Android phone. There we go. Nice and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. Looks like I'm getting some pressure on the pins there. Looks like I'm getting a little bit of movement. If this thing pops, when it pops, we should get a nice bang. Trying to stay clear in case jack comes flying out of there. It won't come. There we go. Did you hear that bang, folks? That's the sound of success. Let's take a look at that. You can see the rotor has popped off a little bit. You can see the hub. It's the front of the rotor is now flush with that. That, my friends, is a lovely sound. And even though you got that off of there, you're still gonna have to jockey the rotor. See? Look at that. Huh? What do you think? That's certainly better than banging it on it with one of these guys, or his little baby sledge right here. I tell you what, if you want to beat on these things with a sledgehammer, be my guest. Knock yourself out. That's a lot of work. But personally, I think using this jack and wedging it between the rotor and the leaf spring pack like I did here is the better way to go. So what do you think of my idea, YouTubers? Huh? Do you think it'll work for you? Give it a shot. And your mileage may vary, like everything does when it comes to shade tree auto mechanics and pretty much everything in life. But if you like my idea, please throw me out a thumbs up and a comment in the comment section. If you think of a better way to improve this approach, hey, throw that out there too. I'm all ears. Anything to make the job easier, hey, I'm all for it. But for those of you who have done the sledgehammer thing, and even worse than the sledgehammer thing is, I know some folks take blowtorches of these things and try to get the rotor to expand relative to the hub. I guess that'll work too, but it's always problematic, especially on the driver's side where the gas tank is sitting right behind us, right over there. It's up to you. Take again, safety precautions if you're using the blowtorch approach, but personally for me, I think the jack's the way to go. Like I said, give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Break out.